Hi, and welcome to the Stay Rich podcast. On this podcast, we're going to have successful entrepreneurs coming on to teach us about how they live a rich lifestyle and give tips and motivational strategies to navigate the world. And in addition to that, we're also going to be interviewing high-level, extremely killer, competent divorce attorneys who are coming onto the show to tell us their war stories, to tell us all of the things that you as a man should not be doing if you are going through a divorce today. Mo, the last time we were talking, you were telling me this crazy story about how someone's like holding you at gunpoint somewhere in Africa. Please tell me what was going on.
Yeah, this is a kind of story that I don't talk about a lot. So what happened was we were working on a documentary film in East Africa funded by USAID. So there was three of us, Al, myself, and my business partner, Oz. So Al landed there first, 2 days ahead of us. And it was his first time actually traveling to that part of the world. And funny thing is, right after 2 days, right when we were traveling there, Al called me and he's like, I'm coming back. I'm like, what the heck? We haven't even started the project. What are you talking about? He's like, nope, I had these guys, pointing gun right on his forehead. And he's like, I can't tolerate this. He took off. He came back here.
Oh, no.
And there's only myself now and Oz. We had to go there, and we're like, okay, we signed a contract. We said we're going to do this project for the USAID, not a problem. And we went there, obviously, with fear. And we were very, very scared because Al came back and telling us like these horrible stories, how we had, we knew about, people getting kidnapped and stuff like that. But we thought, we're going to be fully protected by, bulletproof cars and all that, SUVs. So when we reached there, Oz actually suggested, no, we're not going to get any bulletproof because that is going to grab attention.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. We're just going to take normal, taxi to get to our hotel, and then we don't want attention. So fast forward, we traveled to like crazy rural areas with incredible, humble people, unlike the people from the city, the main part of Mogadishu. These people were generous. We were working mainly with farmers there. And the issue was traveling between the city and to these rural areas. There are a lot of militia groups, a lot of, so-called terrorist groups, and and each one of them have their own checkpoints where they ask you for money. And our driver refused to pay the extra that they asked for. and and we were like, okay, just give them the extra, man. It's not a big deal, $20. And he told them, no, I'm going to pay you only $15. We're like, $5, this means nothing. Just pay that freaking $5. And he's like, no, I know these guys. And then these guys came and then they like four of them stood right in front of the car and they pointed a gun at us and we were panicking. Oz was ducking down. It's funny now talking about it, but at that time, of course, it was like insane. Yeah, so that's one of the experiences we had, and that really helped us grow and develop resilience. And the funny thing is we did that. We took other two projects with USAID after that. And then after the third time, we're like, that was back in 2017. After that, we're like, okay, that's it. We're going to take a break from this, man. It's high risk and it's insane traveling those parts of the world.
It's so different. I mean, I've been to Africa myself. Part of my family's from South Africa. Oh. And the value of life that we're accustomed to, right? Like growing up and just living in North America, the value of life is so high. But when you go to places like Africa,
Mm-hmm.
what you find out is that the value of life to them is really low. So
Mm-hmm.
something like $5, like they're okay with somebody dying over that. And it's
Yeah.
scary. Like it's very startling because I think we're almost insulated in a bubble in North America that
Mm-hmm.
we don't get exposed
Mm-hmm.
to the same danger and risk that people in other parts of the world do.
Yeah. So we gotta understand also, what that $5 means to these people to take somebody's life, right? And it's not something that just comes out of vacuum. It's something that has been building up for years, and I don't want to get it really into politics and
No, of
all of
course.
that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's something that grew over time, and they've been put in that situation for a very long time for certain people to have their own gains, right? I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny. I have this story of my uncle telling me of this thief that used to go rob, houses, and this is back in Africa where I came from, and we're like, okay, this guy is really bad, and he tells me this guy is a good guy, and I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy's a thief, man. He goes and robs people, and he tells me his background story, his upbringing, and all that, and how he was raised by a single mother. Their father died, and they had some inheritances, but then their cousins, you know, took all the money, all the wealth, and they were left with nothing. And then this kid, he was a kid basically, and he had no other option but to go steal and to provide food for his mother. And
Yeah. So it's like out of necessity. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's so interesting. So you as an entrepreneur, right? Like with your company, I'm all about this rich lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
And living a rich life, which to me, like the way I put it is doing the right things with the right people at the right time in the right place, right? So it's all about, taking action and putting yourself into these types of situations where you're doing something with purpose, where you're doing something with value and communicating something that is not only just important to other people who would be seeing this, right? Because you're doing the video production element of this job, but to you because you think that it's important and you're building your business and you're putting yourself into perhaps riskier situations to get to the right place at the right time with the right people, like with your business partner. You're in Africa. You're doing something that means something.
The word you mentioned, purpose, right? It's something that I kind of like committed to for the next 20 years of my life. What gives my life a meaning? What is this purpose driven thing that I want to do and that will have an impact, right? It has to be an impactful for ourselves and for our communities, our families, and our friends, everybody, right? And then, of course, the global community. Our impact contribution might be a tiny bit, but we're at least doing it. If everybody does something that is impactful, even for a bit, accumulatively, it's going to be a huge impact, right? So we don't want to brag about, things that we're doing is going to change the world, it's going to change lives, it's going to make the world a better place. Yes, it will, but for a tiny bit, who knows? In 20 years now, we might leave a legacies, that will have huge, better impact, right? Yeah.
I love hearing that. And this is why I was so excited to have you on today is
Awesome. Thank you.
I talk about this leadership, like I call it the king's mindset, which is an archetype. It's a Jungian archetype. And the idea is as the king, you're taking responsibility and ultimate leadership, right? And all of the wins that you have as the king are shared with the people who rely on you. So it's your family, it's your children, it's the people that work with you, the people that work for you. It's all of that success is shared, right? And that gives you like such a purpose, because you're not just doing it for you anymore. You're doing it for the people that you love, that you care for, that you want to be inspired by you. But on the flip side, anything that goes wrong is your fault. So it's partly the ability and the joy of sharing success. And on the other hand, it's taking the burden of responsibility and guilt and blame and shouldering it and saying, I can do better. How can I make this better? How can I improve? And how can I inspire and protect and provide joy and happiness and fulfillment and all of these things to people that we care about, right? So whether it be you guys watching the show today or your family or my family, this is why we do this, right? Like, it's all about going out into the world and really making a change, even if it's for 20 people or 2 million, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming from the corporate world, I've been in the corporate world for the last 20 years, and you mentioned everything is your fault, right?
Of course.
and that's something that I learned later in life. Of course, we like to play the blame game and blame everything on on our bosses, the environment, the friends, family did this to me, did that to me. But learning a bit about emotional intelligence from some mentors, and you yourself, you talk a lot about everything is your fault, and I love that statement. So it's how we react to situations, right? So we have no control over things that can happen to us from outside perspective, right? Government imposes taxes on us, they raise taxes. We can sit and talk about it for hours and blame the government doing this, but as individual, what is your responsibility to figure out ways to cut the taxes, and the amount you give back to the government is less. There are ways, right? Some people say it might be unethical, it's not ethical to do that, but it is a system that is created mostly for the wealthy to figure out ways for them to pay less taxes, right?
Yeah.
Write-offs and so on and so forth. And I can sit and talk, about that for hours and blame the government, or I can do, the way I can play with the system, the way the system is created, right?
Yeah. I had a mentor of mine, give me a reframe. So like, it's so common for people today to be doing this blame game, right? Like, I run into this all the time. I'm sure you run into it too. And I now tell people when they come to me with issues, because, like, it's 2025. People are really charged up about politics. They're charged up about the environment. They're charged up about all this stuff, and they want to talk about it. And, I don't care what people's opinions are. Like, I think everybody's free to have them. But I say to them, look, you're coming to me with a $10 million problem right now. And they'll say, what do you mean? I go, here's the deal. When you make $10 million, take $1 million of it and pay me, and I will listen to you talk about this, because otherwise this is a total waste of my time, because I'm not interested in this, because I can't actually do anything about it. I can't take action and affect the US presidential election or the Canadian election or the tax system or all these other things. I can't do that. Let's focus on the shit that we can do to improve our lives, to improve other people's lives. Right. So for you, you're talking about purpose and you're talking about fulfillment. How do you know in your experience that you're hitting the right mark?
It's all the little things that we do every day. We need to reflect on and look at it. Did I do this the right way? Did I do the right thing? And if we didn't, we got to reflect on it. How can I fix that? And how can I make it better? And if I feel like, yes, I did the right thing at that moment, I got to go celebrate that right thing that I did. And that's what gives me a better good night's sleep. When I go to bed, I look back all the things that I did for that one day. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? And for most of the time, there's a lot of things that we do right. and we don't celebrate. We dwell on the little things that we did wrong. But then that is not going to help you move forward. We got to look into the little things that we did right, wrong, and then reflect on it and say, okay, how can I do this right next day? And celebrate all the good things that 90% of the good things that we did right is what gives me good night's sleep.
That's so insightful. And you just ran right past it. And it's reflecting at night, right? Or reflecting at the end of the day and saying, what are the things that could have gone better? But the key part that you're talking about, which is why you're doing so well, is how do I make it better tomorrow? Because I always say frustration is knowing that you should be doing something differently, but not taking action to do it. And it's sitting there and it just stews. But what you're doing is actually taking the action to get there, right? And I mean, do you find that you apply this holistically across your whole life?
Well, this is something that I learned in the last 2-3 years. My wife tells me it's a midlife crisis. And I find this fascinating. It seems like when men get into their 40s, right? And I'm not sure if that resonates with you, but for a lot of people that I talk to, when they hit their mid-40s, they look at the world through a different lens.
Yeah.
And I feel like I look back in my life, man, like, did I waste these years or did it molded me to who I am now? This is something that hit me in the last 3 years. And I'm like, okay, I want to change my lifestyle and appreciate and be grateful for all the things that I have. I'm not a filthy rich person, but I appreciate and I'm grateful for every little thing that I have at that moment in that day, and work towards on what can I do tomorrow. One of my mantra is after reading Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, it's the moment that we are in right now. What can I do right now, right here at this moment? Everything else doesn't exist, like passes and illusion, right? Yeah. So what can I do now? Of course, plan for the future, but what really matters for me is now at this moment. What can I do now that's gonna help me, my family, my community, the whole society in general. So I think living this lifestyle has given me a lot more happiness. I feel joy every day. Of course, I don't want to sugarcoat. Yes, we're human. There's days and then that we get irritated and pissed and, I go down low, but then I can come back quicker, faster than before. Before I used to dwell on situations. My boss gave me bad performance. Why did he do that? I'm better than this other individual, and I did not get promoted, for a long time. Why is that? And all that blame game. But whereas now, I as my wife says, it's a midlife crisis that you go through. So I'm pursuing something that's more purpose-driven, like leader's mindset.
It's really, I mean, what you're doing, we were talking before we started the show, and it's this incredible story. And I think so many people today go through this where, you're working in the corporate world, you're working like this really technical, very, very high stakes and important job. But at the end of the day, it didn't hit all of your needs and wants and desires. Yeah. And that's what caused you to flip the switch and become an entrepreneur eventually. So can you sort of walk me through how that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So the corporate job I had the last 20 years, initially when I got into it, of course, I had a lot of ambitions, climbing up the corporate ladder was like the key of everything. And I was busting my ass and show up early, leave late. And this was something that helped me shine, right? I was shining
work
with my boss, work ethics. This because the Mo is great. He was doing a lot of incredible things. And the funny thing is, little did they realize that it's not really the amount of time we spend in the corporate world. A lot of bosses, or some of them call themselves leaders, which I don't call leaders. What they looked at is, oh, Mo shows up an hour early and he leaves 2 hours late, and he must be doing an incredible job. Was I really doing an incredible job? I could have done sometimes, that whole 10-hour job in maybe 3 hours, 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they paid attention to. They paid attention to your face, how much you showed your face in the corporate world, how many times you appear in meetings, and you contribute in these meetings. And then after time, there was no fulfillment. There was no joy coming from that corporate. All what they cared about was like the amount of time you showing up. But then I had children, and I had to now, I have more responsibilities. I have to divide my time, according to my own priorities. And I wasn't showing up, as many hours. Oh, Mo is not doing great now, but he's not there all the time. He's, skipping some meetings. He's not there 10 hours a day. And that faded, and that morale faded, and I was not fulfilled. And I was like, okay, I want to do something more of my term, my way, that gives a lot of meaning to what I live for, and something that's more impactful to society. So I got out, and funny thing is, I started my entrepreneurship journey while I was in the corporate world. And a lot of my colleagues there were like, okay, Mo, you have plan B. We don't have plan B. I'm like, okay, well, it's not really a plan B. It's more of like something that I am passionate about. I love doing. And, right after I get out of the corporate job, I continue doing this other thing on the side that gave my life a bit more meaning. It wasn't 100%, of course, but then after 20 years, I got out of the corporate world, and now 100% towards, something that gives me fulfillment.
And the interesting part about that, like, I had the same experience, right? So I went through the corporate ladder, if you want to call it that. And I was doing my articling at a Big Four accounting firm. I was putting in tons and tons of hours. And eventually I flipped into litigation consulting effectively. And I mean, when you're talking about working long hours, like, this job was crazy. Like, I would get up at 5 a.m, get into the office for 6. And at the time I was taking a train to work because it was in downtown. It was like the office was right square downtown. So I would take a train into work, but I would bike to the train station because I wanted to do something healthy for myself, because I was a lunatic.
Nice.
And I would get to the office at like 6:30 in the morning, right? And then work all day until 7 or 8. And part of my job, my role, because of who I am, was actually going and taking clients out. And I would take these clients out for dinner. I would take these clients out for drinks. This is back in the day when I would actually drink alcohol, which I don't anymore, just because I want to be healthy and 100% switched on. And it was, I think, August or September. And I had done this and took the last bus back to where I live from downtown. So I'm getting in at like 2:30 in the morning, bombed.
Wow.
Like, totally out of it. You get on my bike, start riding my bike home, and I end up hitting like a newspaper stand on the side of the sidewalk, flipping over the handlebars, landing on my back. And it's like this beautiful night. There's stars out. It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful summer night. And I lie on my back and I go, what am I doing? I'm out of the house 18 to 20 hours a day. At the time, like, I was making good money. It was like 6-figure job. And I'm killing myself, though.
Were you just, trying to climb up the corporate ladder?
It was a bit by choice. I mean, that was partly the environment and working in litigation. You have deadlines and things like that. And then the other part of it was the entertainment part, which was, sort of building that, which turned out to be a good thing later as a skill to learn. And you go, I can do this better.
Wow.
I can do this myself.
course.
I need to start taking agency over my own life. And I eventually got my ass off the ground and finished my bike ride home. Because I was drunk, I was fine. I didn't get any like whiplash from falling. And get home, wake up the next day, go to the office, and I had one person who was going to send me a file that I had established a connection with in my hometown, a lawyer. So I got on the phone and I called him. I said, look, if I leave, will you send me that file personally? And he said, yeah,
Like
no
if
problem.
you leave,
If I leave the firm and start my own practice,
wow,
will you send that to me? I will do it. And he said, definitely.
it's a bold move.
Yeah. And I hung up the phone, walked into the office, and that was it. Done.
Wow.
Just on that one file. Right. And it's an amazing journey to go through that. And you've been through that too. And I hope so many people listening to this get that inspiration part, because you start to take hold of your life again. Right. And I think this is resonant with your podcast, right? Like you're doing the Leaders Mindset podcast. You're having high level individuals, really successful people onto your podcast talking about these sorts of things. So what led you to that?
Yeah. So I want to clarify one thing. Working for corporations is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay. So I want to get that out of the way. I don't want to say, hey, you know, if you're working for a company, working for a corporate company, it's, you know, your life sucks. I don't want to say that your life has no purpose. No, that's not what I mean. There are so many great companies to work for out there. There are a lot of great companies that adjusted their corporate values and purpose and got that aligned with their employees' life and purpose and so on. What do I mean by that? So in the past, it was more of like, hey, you know, get this shit done and don't ask anything. But now a lot of companies are adjusting that, and they are listening feedback from their employees and getting feedback. Most of the feedback would be like, how can I help you become a better person and develop your career better as a leader to their employees, and then align that with the company's value and purpose, so that the employees are satisfied when they come to the workplace. They come there with purpose, with fulfillment. So Leaders Mindset, of course, is a more purpose-driven social enterprise. We started off as a short form podcast, but then we realized there was a lot of spark and attention from the community. People were asking for more of this content.
Amazing.
So we hit a point where we felt like, I'm not the only host. I'm not just the smartest person in this podcast. Why not invite two individuals that can give back so much to our communities and talk about more impactful, purpose-driven matters for our communities. So then we started inviting two individuals come together, and I want to put myself that I'm not always the smartest person. I don't want to be that, and that's one of our motto. We don't want to be the smartest people in the room. We want to elevate, those leaders that deserve the spotlight to shine. So we bring those individuals, and a lot of them are very humble. They just don't want to appear on the spotlight, and we persuade them and tell them, hey, because you want to leave a legacy behind. And a lot of these individuals, like they made it, they're very successful leaders, and they're doing a lot of great things for our communities, but they're just so humble that they just don't want to be out in public. And we tell them, no, you have to shine, and we will make you shine. And because of the work that you're doing is going to inspire so many people, and so many people are going to try to do the same type of job that you're doing, and do a lot more things for our communities.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
So what gave you the idea? Because usually, I mean, it's an interviewer and an interviewee. So what kind of gave you the idea to invite two people onto the show that have not done this before generally, or maybe they have limited experience, right? Like they're not professional podcasters or something like that? What gave you that idea?
Yeah. Before I answer that, one of the things that we were getting pushback on was, hey, podcasts are known for one host, and people watch podcasts because of the host. And now you're bringing two strangers on your podcast and talk about, things. And how is that going to work for you? It's something different that you're doing. We're like, okay, yeah, we're doing something different, and that's great. We want to disrupt the market of podcasts where it's always known for one individual, and that individual's perspective is going to be very limited. But when we bring diverse individuals, coming from various disciplines, and we bring them together and talk about so many different subjects, it adds a lot of value for our viewers, for those who are inspired by the Leaders Mindset. So we set Leaders Mindset as its own entity, as its own brand. I don't want Leaders Mindset to be associated with me. Mo is the Leaders Mindset. No. For example, Joe Rogan is known for Joe Rogan, right? Huberman is known for Huberman, right? So we want to disrupt that. So we want to create a podcast where more faces come on and talk about things that really matters for our communities. So it was some kind of like this disruption thing that we've initiated.
That's so cool.
And I feel like more people are going to be doing the same thing. More podcasts are going to be. Let's put it this way. It's a podcast in a more TED Talk format.
Okay.
Right.
And like these two people, then do they know each other coming into the room, or is it sometimes they don't know each other?
So what we do is we encourage them to bring individuals that they're comfortable to have a conversation with. And it's so funny that most of the time they tell us, match us with someone. And we try to match them with individuals that have two different perspectives. So this is a very important thing that we really want to emphasize on. I had an individual come in the other day, and he was like, oh, you guys are going to have this Leaders Mindset panel discussion. You're going to bring more like-minded individuals, into on this platform. And I was like, okay, what's the word you use? Like-minded. We don't want to use like-minded. We want to use unlike-minded people come together, but with the same goal and same purpose, right? At the end, for most of us, what we want is we want great things for our communities. We want great things for ourselves. We want great things. So like-minded people in that circle that speak exactly the same language don't bring new things onto the table. Mm-hmm. What we like to bring together is unlike-minded people, where they bring completely different perspective from completely different angle. Of course, the goal is the same at the end, right?
I love that.
So we like doing that. And I spent a lot of time talking to individual. There's a funny story that I want to mention to you. There's this individual named Steve. I was talking with Steve for about 5 years, and we were completely unlike-minded individuals because Steve is a white supremacist, and he calls himself that.
Okay.
He labels himself that, and he hates colored people.
All right.
And I tell Steve, hey, but I'm colored. My name is Mo Mohammed. And like, do you hate me? It's like, no, you're different. So I've had conversation with this individual for 5 years, and that really helped me. It taught me a lot of things. Of course, there was a lot of things that I don't agree with, of course, with his philosophy. But then I started looking at it completely from different angle. I was like, what if I was in his shoes? Would I be like Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because of the environment that he lives in, it molded him to who he is,
mm-hmm.
right? His family and, the surroundings and the place where he lived. They lived in a small town here in Ontario. So unlike-minded people coming together for greater impact is a great thing. I love doing that.
That's
and
amazing.
We want to do that. Myself and my colleague, got to give him credit for sure. creative guy, Oz, you know.
Oz is right there, so he's getting all the credit right now.
Yeah.
If this video looks great, by the way, it's because Oz is doing all the work behind the
Of
scenes.
course, of course.
Um,
Yeah, Ryan, you have this community that you created. You call it the Rich Farm.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to know more about the Rich Farm community that you created. What is it about? Like, what is the impact that you guys are creating?
well, it's basically what you're talking about right now. It's getting people who are from totally different backgrounds but are successful and have the same sort of ethos towards life, the same sort of value structure. So I mean, we've got the whole forum itself is multimillionaires, entrepreneurs.
I can't fit in there.
That's okay. I'll make exceptions.
Exceptions.
You have a multimillionaire mindset. That's different. You're a multimillionaire to be, and you have these people come together from around the world. We've got people in the Netherlands, people in Japan, people in obviously the United States and in Canada and England and France and all over the world, and they're all in different industries too. So it's not like they're all brick makers. You know, it's not like they're all, you know, social media entrepreneurs. And we all come together. And the purpose of it, A, is networking. So you get to know new people, but it's also this sort of exchange of ideas. It's a marketplace for ideas. And the purpose is to build people up. It's to put them back in the driver's seat, to make them the heroes of their own journey. So we teach them, and it's not even teaching, it's more guiding about the various archetypes that we look at. So we look at the king archetype, the king's mindset. We look at the philosopher's mindset. We look at the warrior, the magician, all of these different things. And it becomes a question of, how do you want to display these archetypes and work on them in the world, right? And how do you do it for you personally, right? So it's not about most online communities where there's a leader and the point is to emulate the leader. So rather than doing this sort of like pyramid scheme, we flip it and say, we want to bring out the best in you. We want you to be able to maximize your potential, to be able to sort of spin this cube of different archetypes and display different things to different people on command, like you should, because that's a baseline for communication. That's how NLP is taught.
Yeah.
It's looking at people and understanding who they are, so you know how to communicate with them better, right? And how to push the right button so what you're trying to communicate actually gets through to the other side.
Wow. There's a lot of questions that goes through my mind. And of course, I'm going to leave all those questions for the Leader's Mindset when we have you as a guest on Leader's Mindset.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, you've got a lot of fascinating story of the things that you're doing. And people are interested to hear more of the things that is happening in their lives, but considered as kind of taboo not to talk about. Right. And which is, you know, the things that you do, and you talk about divorce, you talk about all the things that a lot of people don't like to talk about, and you want to prepare people. These are things that happens in our daily lives. And of course, we know, at least we know people that have gone through that, or it may happen to us as individuals, but I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that, and these are things that I will save up for.
I'm excited to do that. I'm excited.
The Leader's Mindset.
I mean, I think part of that leader's mindset, leader's mindset is so important, and it's what you're talking about, which is this sort of disruptive pattern of getting people with different opinions into a room and being able to accept the fact that you're going to have a discussion, and it's important to be interesting. It's important to communicate well, but it's also important to respect the fact that they're coming at something from a different angle, and being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes is really difficult today. I don't think a lot of people do that well. So it's amazing that you're getting that energy sort of right from the get-go with your show, and giving these people the opportunity to express themselves in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the very interesting part, and that is what the world needs now, because we do have our differences. We A lot of us kind of came from different backgrounds, different families, different perspective, different mindset, different philosophy, different levels of education, right? So we should be able to tolerate and understand the other person's perspective, and we can have completely two different opinions, but we should be able to listen to each other and be curious of why are you saying what you're saying,
Mhm.
and vice versa, right? And I think that's really critical. I think we need to open up our minds more and tolerate things that doesn't fully uh, resonate with us, in our
That's
lives.
actually, that's, I'm going to say that that's very egotistical. And I mean that in a really healthy way.
Hmm.
And with ego, I think a lot of people, when they think about ego and having a big ego, is that you're self-centered and you're a narcissist,
Yeah.
that kind of attitude. But actually having a strong, healthy ego means that you're able to listen to other people, that you're able to sort of reach out to individuals that you don't necessarily agree with on a lot of things,
Mhm.
and generate some sort of understanding,
Yeah.
and generate some sort of care and empathy for that person,
Mhm.
and have that type of discussion. So it's amazing how in the modern world we conflate things
Mhm.
and associate something like having an ego as being bad, when in fact, if you have a healthy ego, if you have a really strong ego, you're able to have those conversations because you're not defensive and concerned that somebody else has a different opinion and you have to try to convince them because you know that you're right, and if you're wrong, that shatters your life, because so much is based on this one thing that
Yeah.
you've identified with. um, it's a shame, because I think that these discussions are so important to get out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of our main mission for Leaders Mindset is, I think the world is seeing a lot of not so great leaders, right? And my children growing up, they're going to be looking at these leaders that are not the greatest. Of course, the leaders that are always on the spotlight on social media and so on, tech giant leaders and politicians and so on. And I don't want my kids, at least, to see these leaders as their method of leading is the right way. So what we want to do, the Leaders Mindset, is bring our great leaders on the spotlight and help them transfer skills and knowledge to next generation of leaders, so that when my children see these great leaders that we bring on the podcast, oh, his methodologies are completely different than what I see on social media, right? So
And why do you think that is for current modern day leaders? Like, where do you think the fallback is, or what do you think the issues are?
well, like what this is, we're still kind of like work in progress, I would say. We're learning what leadership is, right? Leadership is ever evolving thing. And the old leadership style is completely different than the new leadership style. We've brought people on Leaders Mindset from Gen Z and baby boomers and everyone in between. And we've seen complete huge differences in the way they lead.
Mm-hmm.
So the leadership with Gen Z, there was a lot to learn from that, and it was such a fascinating episode. And I was scratching my head. I'm like, this is something that never crossed my mind. So what they're doing is they have huge following communities on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and whereas of course baby boomers and Gen X's and millennials, they don't have that communities online. Gen Z has these huge communities, and I'm like, why do they have such huge communities that are so loyal and constantly connected with them? So what we figured is they are bringing their genuine, authentic lifestyle and they pushing it into their business world together.
Okay.
And they're creating this lifestyle where it is not just business and personal, they're bringing everything together and mushing it. And sometimes I'm like, where's the limit? Where?
Well, I mean, that's so entrepreneurial though, because I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you experience this too, but I know personally, like I wake up and I think about my life, and my life is my work and my family. And I'm constantly thinking of new ideas for my work. That's why I came up with the book, and that's why I'm doing the show. I mean, it's just new things come forward, and I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So I'm dreaming about it. I'm thinking about it in the shower. I'm thinking about all these other things that, how do I make that generative improvement? How can I, just bring that extra couple of percent, whether it be to the business or to interactions with my kids, even, and inspiring them to do better.
Yeah.
And
so the question is, are we incorporating this on what our communities are seeing? Like, I don't feel comfortable bringing my family and recording myself every day of everything that I'm doing and putting it out on
No.
social media. And that's what Gen Zs are doing, and that's how they are creating these really loyal communities that love them so much. But me coming, from Gen X, I cannot do that, because this is the mindset I grew up with. You keep business separate, family separate, but me recording myself and putting it out there every single day, I can't do it. And so leadership is shifting, is changing so much that Gen Z's leadership style is going to be completely different. But my question is that really more authentic? Is our leadership style not as authentic because we're not putting ourselves out there so much for people to see every single thing that we're doing? The restaurants we go to, the daycare I take my kids to, the schools my kids go to, and the breakfast that I'm eating that day, lunch, and so on. I cannot do that.
I think
But
it's
Gen Zs are doing it, and they're winning. They're creating communities.
it's hard though. I mean, I know personally, even for myself, like I'm comfortable sharing stories about myself and what I do with my kids and stuff like that, but I don't actually include them. So I don't have them in social media. I don't talk about them specifically by name. I don't even reference them by name in the acknowledgments in the book.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for them. Like if they want to have a public profile in the future, if they want to be out there in the open, I want to give them that choice.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And
totally.
I don't want to expose them to the risk. I mean, that's associated with being online just generally, let alone if you're, well, if you write a divorce book for men that's called How the Rich Get Divorced and Stay Rich, there's going to be some people with pitchforks, right? Like people get mad about that because helping men with a complex issue is taboo in 2025. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
But helping women, I mean, there's so many resources there, and I'm glad that there is. I'm not upset about that or angry about that. I deal with women all the time in this field, but there's nothing there for men to rely on other than recycled platitudes or divorce porn stories about losing your Rolex on the boat, which doesn't work, and all this other kind of stuff. Is all misleading, and it really hurts men. It hurts the divorce. It hurts their ex-wife. It hurts their children, because it's leading to this sort of brinksmanship game where the outcome is the worst possible outcome. All the money goes to the lawyers and everybody else gets screwed.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned about children, that you don't want to expose them to like on your platform, to social media and all that. And this is something that I constantly contemplate on. I don't want to bring my kids out on my social media accounts. The reason being is they are going to be who they are. And I don't want to create this maybe perhaps false image where they grow up later and, Dad, you did this to us, and it was not our approval for you to do this. And this is like, some people are comfortable doing that, and some people make their children, they say, okay, I'm going to bring out my children to social media on my platform and build their brand. And that's their mindset. That's how they think. But for me, I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't want to bring up my kids on my social media accounts, and later on when they grow up and they have their own lives, and they might, as you mentioned, they might have their own, they're going to have their own public profile, and people are going to connect the dots now. Like whatever goes on
Yeah.
on the internet never comes down, right?
There forever.
So it's there forever. And just like what happened to our former prime minister, when he painted himself black and all that, and that was a big thing because it went on the internet.
Of course. And I mean, your kids grew up seeing you in the corporate world to some extent, and then you like totally turned the switch and went, I'm going to be entrepreneurial and full of this sort of life and energy and leading a rich life. How have they found that transition with you? How have you experienced fatherhood differently through that lens?
Oh my God, yes. I think this would be an episode on its own. Yeah, it has completely transformed not only my lifestyle, their lifestyles. Now we're much more bonded and connected
Amazing.
than ever. It's really fascinating, and I get better night's sleeps now, and like I sleep like a baby. I don't wake up in the middle of the night anymore, and I'm trying to build my children to teach them the realities of life in itself, where this is something that I learned from this philosopher. He gets his children out of school and brings them to his factory, and they spend their whole entire day there, and they watch how their dad works and all the things that he's involved in.
Cool.
And he travels with them, with his children, to conferences, business meetings, and all that. And he got in trouble with the school system, with the school board and all that. And they told him, like, your children are not, their absenteeism is like super high. And why are you doing this? He's like, no, I want to raise my children my way. So that guy has kind of like changed my philosophy on how I raise my children. So yesterday, for instance, we had this culture celebration day at a community center, and I made my two daughters to be the MCs.
Awesome.
For this.
How old are they?
They're 14 and 12.
Cool. Okay. So right when it's going to be like high stakes and it feels awkward.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And it was really awkward for them initially, and I kind of brought them up to that level. Now I used to do the MC and arrange all the community activities, but now I moved it to them, and everybody's like, "What? Mo brought his daughters to do this thing?" And they were very comfortable yesterday when they did that. Initially, like when I got them to help me, it was a slow transition. Before I used to bring them right by my side, and then I was used to ask them to talk about certain parts of the activities that we were going to be doing. But yesterday they took full agency and they did all on their own.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for them too. And good for you, because it's so hard, especially in that sort of teenage zone, to inspire children to do something that's outside of their comfort zone. Because it's like the social stress associated with putting yourself out there is so high.
Yeah, it's the norm, that the social norm that has been created now for kids just to be behind the keyboard. They're much more comfortable, being on the keyboard and just texting and all that. They're very comfortable. They're doing great in that sense, like in sense of communication using technology, but coming right in front of people and talking, like speaking their minds and all that. And it's something that I think our school systems are not up to date with that.
The social norms of today, especially for children, are pathetic. I mean, the school system is terrible. It teaches kids crap, and it programs them to sit behind screens and act like weirdos and not be able to look people directly in the eye and express an opinion with confidence. And rather than train kids to be articulate, smart, motivated, inspirational, and eventually successful, the school system chooses to program these children to become numbers, to become cogs in a wheel that will just sit there and do as they're told and only communicate via email or text and never do anything for themselves. And it's tragic.
Yeah. So now my question is, these kids growing up, whose fault is it? Is it the parents' fault? Parents are not doing enough?
Yes.
Who do we blame it on? Like, is it the school system? Is it
Well, there's nothing that you can
parents?
do
Like,
about the school system, without, lobbying the government for changes, and good luck there. But as parents, putting yourself out there, I think, what you're doing is so important, because instead of the school system being the lighthouse for their learning opportunities, for their ability to succeed in the world, you are taking ownership of that role, you and your wife. And that's exactly what I do with my children too. We don't have them in the traditional school system because we know it's broken, because we know it's not going to serve them well. So rather than put them through that trauma of getting a crappy education and bad programming, we instead are more involved in their lives. We're more committed to them. We try to get to understand them better, and we do, because we are involved. And then we act as leaders for them to show them the way and bring out the best in them. And I think it's the parents' fault. I mean, there's so many parents that just pick their kids up from school and then drive them to soccer practice and drive them to dance and then do this and do that and do this and do that. And it's because they're lazy. These parents are lazy. They're phoning it in. They're relying on other adults to care for their children. They're paying other adults to care for their children. Even in the best times that they could spend with them, they would rather slough it off on some karate teacher than actually put effort into being a friggin' parent. It's ridiculous. So it's 100% the parent's fault.
Yeah, I love this term that you use. It's your fault, Yeah, I like that. It's always your fault, whatever.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, if your kids grow up to not be successful, they learned a lot of that programming from their parents, and that's unfortunate, right? And rather than take ownership for that, a lot of parents will just blame something else.
Yeah.
And with my kids, right from they're really young, there's this thing, Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, right? So the hero's journey is, you get the call to adventure, you go out, you face challenges, and eventually, as you succeed over and over and over again, you get beaten down, and you succeed, you get beaten down, and you succeed. Just like Luke Skywalker, just like any friggin' movie that you watch. The guy faces the father, right? And the question is, do you die or do you live? Right? And that's how that story goes. And I've embraced that fully with my children because they're boys, right? So this is when they were 2 and 3 years old, because they would get all like, oh, we're going to beat you up kind of thing, when they were like 3. And I said, good. I want you to beat me. I want you to stand on my shoulders. I want you to conquer everything that I've done and do it way better. That's your job. Your job is to stand on my shoulders and kick my ass at every single possible way. All the time. But you know what, kids? I'm going to make this almost completely impossible. Almost.
Love
and
that.
then I'm going to support you to do it. So I'm going to go out and make it really, really hard. And I'm going to bring you with me.
Yeah, this is definitely leadership, right? As a leader, you got to be always looking towards your successor and building your successor.
Always.
Right? And help them to beat you.
You want them to.
You want them to.
It's a desire that I have. It's the way that you improve as a person. It's a way that you improve as a leader, is this motivation that there's something beyond just you. And it's giving people the gift of your values.
And that's, at the end, that's what builds legacy.
That's legacy. That's what living a rich life is all about. It's being in the right place at the right time, with the right people, doing the right things. And often enough, that's your family.
Beautiful.
I love it.
I think this is a wrap.